The galaxy was vast, but humanity had carved out its place among the stars with grit and ingenuity. Known as Deathworlders, they were survivors of Earth's brutal environment, hardened by centuries of adapting to a planet that seemed determined to kill them. Now, their fleet roamed the cosmos in sleek, battle-hardened ships capable of enduring anything the universe threw at them. They weren't conquerors, they were protectors, though few outside their borders dared underestimate them. Captain Rhea Solis stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, her flagship. Her sharp eyes scanned the holographic display before her. A single alien vessel had entered human-controlled space, an unusual sight this far from trade routes or diplomatic zones. It wasn't armed for combat, judging by its design. Instead, it looked like it had been through hell. Scorched hull plating, flickering lights, and trailing debris hinted at a desperate journey. "Captain," said Lieutenant Marcus Kane, the ship's tactical officer, his voice steady but tinged with curiosity. "They're hailing us. No weapons detected, but their engines are failing." Rhea nodded, her expression unreadable. She trusted her instincts. They'd kept her alive more times than she cared to count, but something about this situation felt off. Still, protocol demanded investigation. "Open a channel," she ordered. On the main view screen, an image flickered to life. An alien face appeared, a creature with translucent skin and glowing veins pulsing faintly beneath its surface. Its large, almond-shaped eyes locked onto the camera as if searching for salvation. Behind it, others huddled, their frail forms trembling. "I am Salus of the Valeth," the alien began, its voice soft yet urgent, translated into galactic standard by the ship's eye. "We beg your mercy. Our people are hunted. If you do not help us, we will perish." A murmur rippled through the bridge crew. Humanity had encountered countless species over the years, but none had ever approached them so directly or so vulnerably. Rhea raised a hand to silence her team before addressing the alien. "Why come to us?" she asked, her tone firm but not unkind. "You must know we're not exactly known for hospitality." Salus hesitated, glancing back at his companions before answering. "Because you are Deathworlders. You understand survival. And because," his voice faltered, filled with emotion, "we have nowhere else to go." Rhea studied him carefully. There was fear in his gaze, yes, but also determination. This wasn't just some random plea, it was calculated. But why? What did these aliens truly want? And what would happen if she refused? She turned to her first officer, Commander Elena Voss, who gave a slight shake of her head. "Could be a trap," Voss whispered. "Or worse, a distraction." Rhea didn't respond immediately. Instead, she leaned forward, her piercing gaze fixed on Salus. "Tell me everything," she said, "and don't leave anything out." As the alien began recounting tales of persecution by a race called the Krylos, Rhea listened intently. Every word was measured, every detail scrutinized. Yet even as doubt lingered in her mind, one thought persisted. Whatever this was, it wouldn't end here. The Deathworlder fleet had faced countless challenges before, but something told her this encounter would test them like never before. For now, all she could do was wait and prepare, because in the cold expanse of space, trust was a luxury no one could afford. The Valeth's ship docked with the Eclipse, its battered frame dwarfed by the sleek, imposing warship. Captain Rhea Solis watched as a small delegation of aliens stepped cautiously onto the hangar deck, their glowing forms casting faint light across the dimly lit chamber. They moved slowly, their frail bodies betraying exhaustion, or perhaps fear. Among them was Salus, who had spoken during the initial transmission. His large eyes darted nervously around the room, taking in the armed guards and towering human crew members. Lieutenant Kai Orin, the fleet's xenolinguist, approached the group. He carried himself with calm professionalism, though his curiosity was evident. "Welcome aboard," he said, his voice steady but kind. "We'll do what we can to help, but you need to tell us everything." Salus nodded weakly, gesturing for his companions to remain silent. "Thank you," he replied through the translator. "You must understand, we are running out of time." As the Vailith were escorted to a secure briefing room, whispers spread among the crew. Some felt sympathy for the aliens' plight. Others remained skeptical. Back on the bridge, Commander Elena Voss voiced her concerns to Captain Solis. "They're hiding something," she insisted, pointing at the data logs recovered from the Vailith's ship. "Their story doesn't add up. Look at this. These coordinates show they passed through neutral systems without permission, and there are reports of unexplained destruction along their route." Rhea frowned, studying the information. It was true. The evidence painted an incomplete picture. The Vailith claimed they were fleeing persecution by the Krylos, a predatory species notorious for enslaving weaker races. But why had they left such chaos in their wake? Were they victims or opportunists? Meanwhile, in the briefing room, Lieutenant Orin tried to build rapport with Salis. The young Vailith seemed reluctant at first, but gradually opened up. "My people have suffered greatly," he admitted, his voice trembling. "The Krylos hunted us like animals. We had no choice but to flee. If we stayed, we would have died." Orin listened intently, noting the sincerity in Salis's words. Yet doubt lingered. "What about the damaged planets?" he asked gently. "Why did your ships leave so much destruction behind?" Salis hesitated, his glowing veins dimming slightly. "It was not intentional," he said finally. "Our engines, they malfunctioned. We needed resources to survive. When we took what we needed, some worlds resisted. We never wanted to hurt anyone." Back on the bridge, tension simmered. A heated debate erupted between factions within the crew. Some argued that humanity owed it to the galaxy to protect the vulnerable, especially given their own history of survival against impossible odds. Others believed aiding the Vailith could provoke retaliation from the Krylos, a risk too great to take. Captain Solis listened silently, weighing both sides. She trusted her instincts, but this decision required more than gut feelings. Lives depended on her choice, not just those of the Vailith, but her own crew as well. Later that evening, she visited the holding area where the Vailith were being kept under guard. Salis looked up as she entered, his expression hopeful yet wary. "Captain Solis," he began, rising awkwardly to his feet. "Please believe me. My people mean no harm." Rhea studied him carefully, searching for any sign of deception. For now, all she could offer was silence. But deep down, she knew one thing for certain. Whether the Vailith were innocent or guilty, their arrival had already set events into motion that couldn't be undone. And somewhere out there, the Krylos were watching and waiting. The calm aboard the Eclipse was shattered when alarms blared across the ship. Lieutenant Marcus Kane's voice crackled over the intercom, sharp and urgent. "Captain, we've got an unidentified vessel approaching at high speed. It's Krylos." Rhea Solis bolted upright from her seat in the briefing room, her mind racing. The Krylos, the very species the Vailith had warned about, were here already. She rushed to the bridge, where the crew worked frantically to analyze the incoming threat. On the main view screen, a sleek, menacing ship appeared, its jagged design resembling the claws of a predator. It wasn't as large as the Eclipse, but its weapons glowed ominously, ready to strike. "Hail them," Rhea ordered, her tone firm despite the tension thick in the air. The response came quickly. A distorted voice growled through the speakers, laced with hostility. "Human vessel, surrender the Vailith fugitives immediately. Their extermination is inevitable. Interference will result in your destruction." A collective shiver ran through the bridge crew. The Krylos weren't negotiating. They were issuing the death sentence. Commander Elena Voss turned to Rhea, her face pale. "They're not bluffing, Captain. If we hand over the Vailith, they might leave us alone. And if we don't?" Rhea shot back, her eyes narrowing. She didn't wait for an answer. Instead, she addressed the entire crew. "This isn't just about the Vailith. This is about who we are. We don't bow to bullies. Her words ignited a spark among the crew. Humanity had survived Earth's harshest conditions by standing their ground, and Rhea wasn't about to let fear dictate their actions now. She gave the order. Charge the plasma cannons. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. The Krylos scout ship moved closer, clearly unimpressed by the humans' defiance. A warning shot fired from their weapons, narrowly missing the Eclipse. The impact shook the ship, sending a few crew members stumbling. Panic threatened to creep in, but Rhea's steady presence kept everyone focused. Fire at will, she commanded. The Eclipse responded with devastating precision. Its experimental plasma cannons unleashed a torrent of energy, striking the Krylos ship dead center. The alien vessel erupted in a fiery explosion, debris scattering into the void of space. For a moment, silence reigned on the bridge as the crew processed what had just happened. "We did it," someone whispered, awe in their voice. But Rhea wasn't celebrating. Her jaw tightened as she stared at the wreckage. "That was too easy," she muttered under her breath. Turning to her officers, she added, "They sent one ship, a scout. This wasn't their full force. They'll be back, and next time, they won't hold back." Her words sobered the crew. Victory felt hollow when the cost of future battles loomed so heavily. Down in the holding area, Salas watched the news unfold on a monitor, his glowing veins flickering erratically. He approached Lieutenant Kyorin, who stood nearby. "You saved us," Salas said, his voice trembling. "But you've also made enemies of the Krylos. They will stop at nothing to destroy you." Orin nodded grimly. "We knew the risks, and we're not afraid of a fight." Salas hesitated, guilt flashing across his face. "I never wanted this for you, my people. We only sought refuge. Now, because of us, your fleet is in danger." Orin placed a reassuring hand on the alien's shoulder. "It's not your fault. The Krylos were coming for you either way. At least now we know what we're up against." Back on the bridge, Rhea paced thoughtfully. Destroying the scout ship had been necessary. It sent a clear message that humanity wouldn't back down. But it also escalated the conflict. The Krylos would see this as an act of war, and they wouldn't hesitate to retaliate with overwhelming force. As the Eclipse resumed course, the weight of their decision settled heavily on everyone. They had proven their strength, but strength alone wouldn't win this fight. Trust was fragile, alliances uncertain, and the galaxy vast and unforgiving. And somewhere in the darkness, the Krylos prepared their response. The destruction of the Krylos scout ship had bought the Eclipse some time, but it wasn't enough to ease the tension aboard the fleet. Captain Rhea Solis knew they were just delaying the inevitable. A full-scale assault from the Krylos was only a matter of time. To prepare, she ordered her crew to dig deeper into the Valeth story. If humanity was going to fight this war, they needed answers, and fast. Lieutenant Kyorin spent hours combing through the data logs recovered from the Valeth's damaged ship. At first glance, the files seemed straightforward. Maps of escape routes, records of encounters with the Krylos, and desperate pleas for help sent to neighboring systems. But as Orin delved deeper, inconsistencies began to surface. Hidden beneath layers of encrypted code were fragments of disturbing information. Accounts of planets abandoned in ruin, species displaced or wiped out entirely, and cryptic mentions of collateral damage. Orin brought his findings to Captain Solis late one night in her quarters. She listened intently, her sharp eyes scanning the documents he compiled. "It looks like the Valeth weren't just running from the Krylos," Orin explained cautiously. "Some of these entries suggest they sabotaged resources on worlds they passed through. Entire ecosystems destabilized, populations left starving." Rhea frowned, her mind racing. Sabotage? Why would they do that? "I don't know," Orin admitted. "Maybe it was survival instinct. Maybe desperation drove them to extremes. But if this gets out..." He trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. If the truth came to light, it could shatter whatever fragile trust remained between the humans and the Valeth. Meanwhile, Salas grew increasingly restless. He sensed the shift in attitude among the crew. Their once warm gazes now carried suspicion. When Lieutenant Orin confronted him about the hidden logs, Celis hesitated, clearly torn. Finally, he spoke, his voice heavy with shame. "What you found? It's true. My people did terrible things. We didn't want to. We had no choice." Orin pressed him gently. "Explain." Celis sighed, his glowing veins dimming as if weighed down by guilt. "When we fled the Krylos, our ships were failing. We needed fuel, supplies, anything to keep moving. Some worlds refused to help us. Others tried to stop us. In our desperation, we took what we needed, even if it meant leaving those places broken behind us. I never agreed with it, but I couldn't stop it either." The revelation spread quickly through the fleet, sparking heated debates. Some crew members argued that the Vaylith's actions made them no better than the Krylos. They were invaders, not victims. Others believed their circumstances justified their choices, pointing out that humanity itself had done questionable things to survive Earth's harsh conditions. Captain Solis called an emergency meeting with her senior officers. The room buzzed with conflicting opinions. Commander Elena Voss voiced her concerns bluntly. "If we side with the Vaylith, we risk alienating other species. The galaxy won't forgive us for defending murderers. But if we abandon them," countered Lieutenant Kane, "we become cowards who turn our backs on those in need. Is that who we are?" Rhea listened silently, weighing every argument. She understood both sides, but deep down, she felt something more pressing. This wasn't just about morality or strategy. It was about understanding the bigger picture. Who were the Krylos, really? And why were they so determined to annihilate the Vaylith? Her thoughts turned to the encrypted files still buried within the Vaylith's logs. There had to be more to uncover, something that could explain why the Krylos saw the Vaylith as such a threat. Summoning Orin after the meeting, she gave him a new directive. "Keep digging," she said firmly. "Find out everything. If there's a reason the Krylos hate them this much, we need to know it." As Orin returned to his work, Rhea stared out at the stars, her resolve hardening. Humanity had always thrived on adaptability and resilience. Now, faced with secrets and lies, she realized the real battle wouldn't just be fought with weapons. It would be fought with truth. And somewhere in the shadows of space, the Krylos prepared to strike again, their motives darker than anyone suspected. Captain Rhea Solis knew time was running out. The Krylos wouldn't wait long before launching a full-scale attack, and the Deathworlder fleet needed every advantage it could get. But there were still too many unanswered questions buried deep within the Vaylith's encrypted logs. To uncover the truth, she decided on a risky plan. Send a small strike team into Krylos-controlled space to infiltrate an abandoned outpost rumored to hold vital intelligence. The mission fell to Lieutenant Kai Orin, who had proven his resourcefulness in decoding alien data. Joining him were 3 elite crew members from the Eclipse: Ensign Tessa Marlowe, an expert in stealth technology; Corporal Dax Renner, a seasoned combat specialist; and Celis, the young Vaylith who insisted on accompanying them. "This is my fault," he argued when Rhea hesitated. "If anyone should face the danger, it's me." Rhea reluctantly agreed, though she made it clear that Celis's presence came with strict conditions. "You follow orders without question," she warned him. "One wrong move, and you're out." The team boarded a cloaked shuttle and set course for the edge of Krylos territory. Their destination was a derelict research station floating near a volatile asteroid field. Intelligence suggested the Krylos had used it as a staging ground before abandoning it due to environmental hazards. It was the perfect place to hide secrets, and the perfect trap if they weren't careful. As they approached the outpost, tension crackled among the crew. The shuttle's sensors picked up signs of automated defenses, drones patrolling the perimeter and energy shields guarding key entry points. "We'll have to disable those shields manually," Tessa whispered, her fingers flying over the controls. "But we won't have much time once we're inside." The team disembarked cautiously, their movements silent and deliberate. Salus proved unexpectedly useful, using his bioluminescent glow to mimic access codes on locked doors, a trick he claimed was common among his people. "I told you I could help," he said quietly, earning a reluctant nod from Dax. Inside the outpost, the air was thick with dust and decay. Flickering lights cast eerie shadows on the walls, and the hum of dormant machinery echoed through empty corridors. The team split up to cover more ground quickly, but their progress was soon interrupted by the sound of whirring gears. Automated drones descended from the ceiling, their red eyes locking onto the intruders. "Take cover," Dax shouted, firing his plasma rifle at the nearest drone. Sparks flew as metal collided with energy blasts, forcing the team to retreat deeper into the station. They regrouped in what appeared to be a central control room, where Tessa worked frantically to bypass the security system. While she hacked into the terminal, Orin noticed something odd about the outpost's layout. Symbols etched into the walls matched patterns he had seen in the Valeth's logs. He turned to Salus. "Do you recognize these?" Salus froze, his glowing veins dimming momentarily. "They're warnings," he admitted. "The Krylos marked places like this as forbidden zones. If we're here, it means they left something behind. Something dangerous." Before Orin could press further, Tessa let out a triumphant cry. "Got it. Downloading all files now." The screen flooded with data streams, revealing schematics, weapon designs, and logs detailing the Krylos plans for galactic domination. Among the files was one labeled Project Eclipse, a chilling reference to humanity's flagship. "They're planning an invasion," Tessa breathed, her voice trembling. "Not just against the Valeth, against everyone." Suddenly, the station trembled violently. Alarms blared as the asteroid field outside began to destabilize, sending rocks hurtling toward the outpost. "We've triggered some kind of self-destruct protocol," Orin yelled. "Move." The team sprinted back to the shuttle, dodging collapsing debris and relentless drones. As they reached the hangar bay, Salus stopped abruptly. "Go ahead," he urged. "I'll hold them off." "No way," Orin shot back, grabbing his arm. "We don't leave anyone behind." With seconds to spare, the shuttle launched into space just as the outpost imploded behind them. Back aboard the Eclipse, Captain Solis greeted the team with relief, but also urgency. The stolen intel confirmed the worst. The Krylos weren't just predators. They were conquerors, and humanity's decision to intervene had thrust them into the crosshairs of a war that would change the galaxy forever. The stolen intel from the Krylos outpost painted a grim picture. The Deathworlder fleet gathered in a secure nebula, their ships forming a protective circle as Captain Rhea Solis convened an emergency briefing. Holographic projections of maps and schematics filled the room, detailing the Krylos plans for invasion. Not just targeting the Valeth, but also neutral systems and even humanity itself. The message was clear: no one would be safe if the Krylos succeeded. "This changes everything," Commander Elena Voss said, her voice tight with frustration. "If we stand with the Valeth now, we're declaring war on the Krylos. Are we ready for that?" "We don't have a choice," Lieutenant Kai Orin countered, his tone firm. "They're coming for us whether we like it or not. At least this way, we'll be prepared." But not everyone shared his conviction. Tensions simmered among the crew, and whispers of dissent spread through the fleet. Some believed siding with the Valeth was reckless. Others questioned whether humanity had any business interfering in alien conflicts. The debate reached a boiling point when a shocking revelation came to light. Late one night, Ensign Tessa Marlowe intercepted encrypted communications originating from within the fleet. Her eyes widened as she decoded the message. A faction of officers had secretly negotiated with the Krylos, offering to hand over the Valeth in exchange for safe passage. Horrified, Tessa rushed to inform Captain Solis. Rhea listened in stony silence as Tessa explained what she'd uncovered. "Who's behind this?" Rhea demanded, her voice icy. "It's Commander Voss," Tessa admitted reluctantly, "and a few others. They've been communicating with the Krylos for days." Rage burned in Rhea's chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. Betrayal was something she'd feared, but never expected, from her own crew. She ordered Tessa to keep the information classified while she devised a plan to confront the traitors. The next morning, Rhea called an urgent meeting on the Eclipse's bridge. When Voss and her co-conspirators arrived, they were met with armed guards and cold stares. "What is the meaning of this?" Voss snapped, her composure slipping. "You tell me," Rhea replied, stepping forward. She activated a holoscreen displaying the intercepted messages. "You've been negotiating with the enemy. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Voss paled but quickly recovered, her expression hardening. "I did what I thought was best for the fleet. We can't win against the Krylos, not without sacrificing everything. Handing over the Valeth buys us time to prepare, and condemns an entire species to extinction." Orin interjected angrily. "Is that who we are now? Cowards willing to sell out allies for survival?" The argument escalated into a heated standoff, dividing the crew. Some sided with Voss, believing her actions were pragmatic. Others rallied behind Rhea, refusing to abandon their principles. Amid the chaos, Celis stepped forward, his glowing form trembling with emotion. "I understand your fear," he said softly, addressing the crew. "But know this, my people have already suffered enough because of cowardice and betrayal. If you turn us over, you'll only delay the inevitable. The Krylos won't stop until they've consumed every star system in their path, including yours." His words struck a chord. Slowly, the tide began to shift. Even some of Voss's supporters hesitated, their loyalty wavering. Rhea seized the moment, raising her voice above the murmurs. "We are Deathworlders," she declared, her gaze sweeping across the room. "Survivors. Fighters. We don't bow to tyrants or abandon those in need. That's what makes us strong. And that's why we'll face the Krylos, together." Her speech galvanized the crew, uniting them under a single purpose. Voss and her conspirators were placed under arrest, their betrayal serving as a stark reminder of the stakes. As the fleet prepared for battle, Rhea turned to Orin and Celis. "This isn't just about winning," she said quietly. "It's about proving that hope can survive even in the darkest corners of the galaxy." Far beyond the nebula, the Krylos fleet mobilized, unaware that humanity's resolve had grown stronger than ever. The stage was set for a clash that would decide the fate of countless worlds and define the legacy of the Deathworlders forever. Captain Rhea Solis stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, staring at the holographic map that displayed the growing Krylos fleet. Their numbers were staggering, ships bristling with weapons, their jagged designs resembling predators ready to strike. Humanity's Deathworlder fleet was formidable, but it couldn't match the sheer size and firepower of the Krylos Armada alone. For the first time in her career, Rhea felt the weight of doubt pressing down on her shoulders. But then something unexpected happened. The intercepted intel from the Krylos outpost had been broadcast across every communication channel by Lieutenant Kyorin, who believed transparency would rally support. At first, skepticism reigned among neighboring species. Many saw humanity as reckless upstarts, too unpredictable to trust. Yet as the gravity of the Krylos plans sank in, plans for galactic domination, enslavement, and extermination, a shift occurred. One by one, distant star systems began responding. Ships from neutral factions arrived, their captains pledging aid. The Zentari, a nomadic race known for avoiding conflict, sent sleek vessels equipped with cloaking technology. The Arathians, whose advanced shields could withstand even the harshest attacks, joined without hesitation. Even the enigmatic Korin, rarely seen outside their nebula, emerged with organic warships grown from living material. Each species brought unique strengths, united by a shared goal: stopping the Krylos. Back aboard the Eclipse, morale soared. Crew members worked tirelessly alongside alien engineers, upgrading weapons systems and fortifying defenses. Celis became a bridge between humans and their new allies, translating languages and fostering cooperation. His presence reminded everyone why they fought, not just for survival, but for justice. "This is unprecedented," Commander Elena Voss admitted during a strategy meeting, her earlier betrayal forgiven as she returned to duty under close supervision. "We've never seen such unity before. It's because we gave them hope," Rhea replied firmly. "Hope that standing together can make a difference." As the coalition grew stronger, so did its resolve. Rhea devised a daring plan to lure the Krylos into a trap. Using the asteroid fields and nebulae near their position, they could exploit environmental hazards to level the playing field. The key was timing. If executed perfectly, the Krylos' superior numbers would become a liability. Meanwhile, tensions within the fleet eased as bonds formed between humans and their alien counterparts. Ensign Tessa Marlowe marveled at the Zentary's cloaking tech, while Corporal Dax Renner exchanged combat tactics with Arathian warriors. Even Salus found acceptance among the crew, his guilt slowly giving way to purpose. But not all challenges were external. Supplies dwindled as the coalition prepared for battle, forcing difficult decisions about rationing. Tempers flared occasionally, especially when cultural misunderstandings arose. Yet through it all, Captain Solis remained a steady anchor, reminding everyone of their shared mission. On the eve of the impending battle, Rhea addressed the entire coalition via a secure transmission. Her voice carried strength and determination, cutting through the static of countless speakers. "Tomorrow, we face an enemy unlike any we've encountered before, but we are not alone. Together, we stand as one force, a beacon of resistance against tyranny. Let us show the galaxy what happens when courage meets unity." Her words echoed across ships and species, igniting a fire in every heart. As the fleet moved into position, preparing for the fight of their lives, a sense of camaraderie filled the void of fear. They were no longer isolated survivors or reluctant participants. They were defenders of a fragile peace. Far away, the Krylos fleet surged forward, oblivious to the storm awaiting them. What they expected to be an easy victory would instead become a testament to resilience, sacrifice, and the unyielding power of unity. And somewhere deep within herself, Captain Rhea Solis allowed herself a small flicker of hope. The galaxy held its breath as the Deathworlder fleet and their coalition allies faced off against the Krylos Armada. The battlefield was a swirling maelstrom of asteroids, gas clouds, and radiation storms, a chaotic expanse chosen deliberately by Captain Rhea Solis to neutralize the Krylos' numerical advantage. As the two forces clashed, space itself seemed to tremble under the weight of their fury. It began with a deafening salvo of energy blasts. The Krylos ships unleashed torrents of plasma fire, their jagged hulls glowing ominously as they surged forward like predators hunting prey. In response, the coalition retaliated with precision strikes. Arathian shields absorbed the brunt of the assault, buying time for Zentari cloaked vessels to slip behind enemy lines and deliver devastating ambushes. Human plasma cannons roared to life, obliterating several Krylos cruisers in fiery explosions that lit up the void. On the bridge of the Eclipse, tension crackled through the air. Lieutenant Kyorin monitored tactical displays, his voice steady but urgent. "They're focusing on our flanks. We need to reinforce Sector Delta." Captain Solis didn't hesitate. "Redirect all available fighters to Delta. Koran ships, use your bioweapons to disrupt their formations." The Koran warships responded instantly, releasing swarms of organic projectiles that latched onto Krylos vessels. These living weapons burrowed into the enemy's hulls, causing them to destabilize and explode from within. Cheers erupted across the coalition channels, but the celebration was short-lived. The Krylos adapted quickly, deploying automated drones armed with EMP charges to disable the Koran ships. "Damn it," Commander Elena Voss cursed, slamming her fist on the console. "Their countermeasures are too fast. We can't afford to lose momentum." Rhea shot back, her eyes blazing with determination. She turned to Salus, who stood nearby, watching the battle unfold. "Salus, you know more about their technology than anyone here. Is there a weakness?" Salus hesitated, his glowing veins flickering nervously. Then he nodded. Their command ship, the one at the center, it controls the entire fleet. If we take it out, their coordination will collapse. Rhea wasted no time. Kane, assemble a strike team. We're going after their flagship. Within minutes, a small squadron of elite pilots launched from the Eclipse. Led by Corporal Dax Renner, they navigated the treacherous asteroid field, dodging debris and enemy fire. The Krylos command ship loomed ahead, a monstrous structure bristling with turrets and surrounded by a swarm of escorts. Breaking through its defenses felt impossible, but desperation fueled courage. Back on the main battlefield, the Coalition fought valiantly to hold the line. Ensign Tessa Marlowe coordinated with Zentari captains, using cloaking fields to create diversions, while Arathians reinforced weakened sectors. Every victory came at a cost. Ships were lost, lives extinguished in bursts of light. Yet even amid the devastation, moments of heroism shone brightly. One such moment came when a Krylos dreadnought targeted a group of civilian transports fleeing the conflict. Without hesitation, Lieutenant Orin commandeered a damaged fighter and rammed it into the dreadnought's engines, sacrificing himself to save hundreds of innocents. His final transmission echoed across the fleet. For unity, for hope. As the battle raged on, the strike team reached the Krylos command ship. Against overwhelming odds, they breached its hull and planted explosives deep within its core. The resulting explosion tore through the vessel, sending shockwaves rippling through the Krylos fleet. Their coordination faltered, and chaos ensued. Though battered and bloodied, the Coalition pressed their advantage. Ship by ship, the Krylos retreated, leaving behind a graveyard of wreckage and ruin. Victory wasn't complete. The cost had been immense, but it was enough to turn the tide. As silence fell over the battlefield, Captain Solis stared at the carnage before her. Tears welled in her eyes, not just for the fallen, but for the resilience of those who remained. Humanity had proven itself not merely as survivors, but as protectors of something greater. And somewhere in the shadows, the surviving Krylos vowed revenge. But for now, the galaxy breathed a little easy. The aftermath of the battle left the Coalition fleet battered but unbowed. The Krylos had been pushed back, their command ship destroyed, and their forces scattered, but victory came at a heavy price. Dozens of ships lay in ruins, drifting silently among the asteroids. Thousands of lives, human and alien alike, had been lost. The bridge of the Eclipse was somber as Captain Rhea Solis surveyed the damage reports flooding in from across the fleet. "We've won this round," Commander Elena Voss said cautiously, her voice tinged with exhaustion. "But they'll regroup, and when they return, they'll be angrier than ever." Rhea nodded grimly. She knew Voss was right. The Krylos weren't defeated. They were merely delayed. But for now, there was time to regroup, repair, and prepare for what lay ahead. More importantly, the Coalition's unity had proven stronger than anyone could have imagined. Species that had once distrusted humanity now saw them as equals and leaders in this fight for survival. Amid the wreckage, rescue operations were underway. Survivors clung to escape pods or drifted in damaged fighters, their faces etched with relief as Coalition ships pulled them aboard. Among those rescued was Lieutenant Kai Orin, who had miraculously survived his suicidal maneuver against the Krylos dreadnought. His fighter had been crippled, but a Zentari vessel had managed to retrieve him moments before it exploded. When Orin returned to the Eclipse, he was greeted with cheers and embraces from the crew. Even Salus rushed to meet him, his glowing form flickering with emotion. "You saved so many," Salus said, his voice trembling. "Why would you risk your life like that?" Orin gave a weary smile. "Because sometimes risking everything is the only way to protect what matters." As repairs continued, word spread about the Coalition's triumph. News of the battle reached distant star systems, sparking hope among species who had once feared the Krylos' unstoppable advance. Embassies opened channels of communication, offering aid and resources. Humanity's reputation grew, not just as survivors of Earth's harsh conditions, but as defenders willing to stand against tyranny. Yet not all reactions were positive. Some factions accused the Deathworlders of provoking the Krylos, claiming their actions had escalated the conflict unnecessarily. Others whispered of betrayal, pointing fingers at the Vaelith for drawing humanity into a war that wasn't theirs. These criticisms weighed heavily on Captain Solis, but she refused to let doubt cloud her resolve. "We didn't start this war," she told her senior officers during a debriefing session, "but we're going to finish it, not just for ourselves, for everyone who believes in freedom." To solidify their position, Rhea proposed an unprecedented step, forming a formal alliance between all participating species. This galactic coalition would serve as a united front against future threats, ensuring no one faced the Krylos, or any other aggressor, alone. The idea met resistance at first, particularly from more isolationist races, but Salus played a crucial role in bridging divides. Drawing on his people's history of trade and diplomacy, he helped draft agreements that balanced autonomy with collective responsibility. Meanwhile, the Vaelith began rebuilding alongside their newfound allies. Abandoned colonies offered sanctuary, providing safe havens where the beleaguered species could heal and grow. For the first time in centuries, the Vaelith dared to dream of peace. But even as hope blossomed, shadows lingered. Scattered remnants of the Krylos fleet remained active, striking at outlying systems and sowing fear. Intelligence suggested they were rallying under a new leader, one even more ruthless than before. Captain Solis stood on the observation deck of the Eclipse, gazing out at the stars. The scars of battle still mirrored the void, but she saw something else too: resilience, unity, hope. Next time, she murmured to herself, "We'll be ready." And somewhere far beyond, the surviving Krylos plotted their revenge, vowing to extinguish the light of defiance that now burned brighter than ever. The galaxy was forever changed by the battle against the Krylos. Though the immediate threat had been pushed back, its echoes rippled across star systems, reshaping alliances and redefining courage. Humanity's Deathworlder fleet stood as a symbol of resilience, not just for their strength in combat, but for their unwavering commitment to justice. Captain Rhea Solis watched from the bridge of the Eclipse as the coalition began to take shape, its members working tirelessly to build something greater than themselves. The Galactic Coalition became more than an alliance. It was a promise. Species that had once lived in fear of one another now shared resources, technology, and knowledge. The Zentari taught stealth tactics, while the Arathians shared advancements in shield technology. Even the Quarren contributed, offering bioengineered solutions to heal damaged ecosystems left in the wake of conflict. Humanity, once seen as unpredictable outsiders, earned respect as leaders who valued unity over domination. For the Vaelith, this new era brought hope they hadn't dared to imagine. Under the protection of the Coalition, they settled on a lush planet offered by the Arathians, a world teeming with life and light. Salus stood alongside Lieutenant Kyorin during the dedication ceremony, his glowing form steady and proud. "This is what my people have dreamed of for generations," he said softly. "A chance to start over." But not all wounds could heal so easily. The losses weighed heavily on everyone. Memorials were erected aboard every ship in the fleet, honoring those who had given their lives to turn the tide. Lieutenant Orin often visited the plaque bearing his name among the fallen, touched by the irony of surviving when others hadn't. Yet he found solace in knowing their sacrifice hadn't been in vain. Captain Solis remained vigilant, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Intelligence reports hinted at renewed Krylos activity near uncharted regions of space. Their leader, a shadowy figure known only as the Harbinger, was rumored to be amassing forces for a final assault. But instead of fear, the news ignited determination within the coalition. They were stronger now, united in purpose and prepared for whatever came next. As the Eclipse set course for unexplored territories, Rhea addressed her crew one last time before departure. "We faced impossible odds before," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "And every time, we've risen to meet them, not because we're invincible, but because we believe in something greater than ourselves. Today, we carry that belief into the unknown." Her words resonated deeply, inspiring cheers from the crew. Even Salus smiled, his glowing veins pulsing brightly. "You humans are remarkable," he admitted. "You fight not just to survive, but to create a better future." Rhea nodded, though her expression remained thoughtful. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Threats beyond the Krylos lurked in the vastness of space, dangers no one could predict. But humanity had always thrived in adversity, adapting and enduring where others faltered. Now, they weren't alone. Together, they would face whatever challenges awaited them. Far beyond the stars, the Krylos plotted their revenge, their hatred burning like a black hole. But even as darkness loomed, light persisted, in the bonds forged between species, in the dreams of survivors, and in the indomitable spirit of those who refused to surrender. As the eclipse disappeared into the void, Lieutenant Orin gazed out at the endless expanse, reminded of Salus's final words before departing for his new home. Even in darkness, light can prevail. Humanity, once feared as Deathworlders, now shone as beacons of hope, a testament to the power of unity, compassion, and courage. And somewhere, deep within the hearts of those who fought and endured, a quiet promise lingered. No matter how dark the night, dawn would always follow.